Well, hello everyone, and welcome to LifeWave Connect. We are so glad to be here with you today, and we appreciate you joining us in our every other week webinars on Wednesdays at 11 a.m. Pacific and 6 p.m. Pacific. We do these broadcasts in English, but we provide translation services in both sessions. In our morning session, we provide translation services for our supported European languages. And in our evening session, we provide translation services for Japanese, Chinese, as well as Spanish. We are so glad, like I said, to be here with you today. And this week's LifeWave Connect is going to be focused on product. Every other week that we hold these webinars, we switch between business training as well as product training. And so we are really looking forward today to being able to speak about products specifically. And for those of you that are new to LifeWave and those of you that aren't, you may already know this, that we have the privilege and the pleasure of having our founder, our CEO, David Schmidt, with us on these calls to train specifically about this amazing technology that he invented and that he has been able to share with so many through this amazing company that is LifeWave. So today is no exception. We will have David with us again to talk through some specifics around a product line that we have that is called Why Age. And I think that many of you are probably familiar with what this particular system is, but from my perspective, I thought it would be really great to have David come on and share with us the details around what is the system, why was it produced, and how does it work in connection with our amazing breakthrough technology that is X39, all about activating stem cells and reversing aging. So David, are you here with us? Can you join us on the call?
Hey, Emily, great to see you.
It's great to see you too, David. Thank you so much for joining us today. I know our members look forward to seeing you.
Same, glad to be here.
Absolutely. Well, I know we've talked a little bit in preparation for this call surrounding the Why Age Trio system and really what it's designed to do. But again, for those of you that are new, we've had products that have been developed over years, right? Starting with our energy enhancer patch. But everything that we have from our product line is really based on the same core technology of phototherapy. But with the breakthrough of the stem cell technology, our products really have gone from a focus of anti-aging specifically to age reversal and regeneration. So, David, I've heard you speak about our Why-Age system and many of the other regular patches really as being a great complement or companion to X39. And that I think it'd be really helpful, like I said, for us to understand truly, what does that mean? What is the Why-Age system and why is it such a powerful companion? So do you mind if we dive right in and kind of talk about that?
Yeah, let's go ahead and dive right in. And what we're going to be doing today, I think, since we have the impending launch of a new patch that's in the field of stem cells and regeneration, what we want to do is focus in and look at the attributes and the benefits of Aeon, glutathione, and carnosine through the lens of stem cells and regeneration. So we've talked about in the past how glutathione is an antioxidant and how carnosine is an antioxidant and its benefits. But let's look at it a little bit differently today and through the lens of how can exactly these products complement X39 and why. So first, where I think I might start is with glutathione. So glutathione, of course, body's master antioxidant. It's found about everywhere. But what relationship does glutathione have with stem cells and regeneration? Well, actually, it's been shown in clinical studies that glutathione protects stem cells just like it would protect every other cell in the body. So if we keep our glutathione levels elevated, that means we're going to be protecting the function of the stem cells, and that means our body is going to be able to heal and repair more efficiently. Now, there's another thing that I wanted to take a look at today with our members, and it dives a little bit deeper into the cell, and that's looking at glutathione's role in its ability to protect DNA and even repair DNA. So I'm going to share screen just for a second where we can take a look at this. And here's a study that I pulled. Of course, in our studies, we're not making any medical claims. It's a good opportunity to point out I'm not a medical doctor, I'm an inventor, and nothing that we're bringing up here today should be construed as medical advice. And anything that we might recommend, people should get the okay from their healthcare practitioner first. So when we do clinical studies on our patches, what we want to do is substantiate that the patch does what we say and then show some of the benefits. But when we dig a little bit deeper into something like glutathione, we see some things that are really interesting. First, one of the things that we know about glutathione is that it is strongly correlated with a person's lifespan and also with their health span. So in other words, people that live to be over 100 are going to have higher levels of glutathione. People that resist the aging process have higher levels of glutathione. One of the mechanisms that's involved with this, which is just to simply protect our cells from oxidative and inflammatory stress, is pretty well understood. But if we dig a little bit deeper, one of the things that is correlated with aging is the accumulation of dead cells. So in other words, cells in our body, they'll go through a life cycle, and when they die, they should be removed through the body through a process called autophagy. But if they're not, and they linger, they can end up damaging healthy cells. So researchers in the field of age reversal, such as Aubrey de Grey, they're looking at drugs that can remove these dead cells from the body. And certainly many researchers, they believe that by going this route, we can successfully extend human lifespan. But it's important to know, what can we do in the meantime? And there's a number of ways of inducing autophagy, such as fasting, and also the nutrient fisetin, which is found in peppers, as one example. But let's take a look at this here. Why are dead cells going to damage healthy cells? They can directly induce damage into the DNA. Also, we see that DNA can be damaged by chronic oxidative or inflammatory stress. So we look at this study, and we can see here in the conclusions, these results strongly suggest that intracellular glutathione and ascorbate, vitamin C, protect human lymphocytes against oxidative DNA damage. So this is one study looking at this. So it's like building up a wall, right, around your city, or you're having a shield against damage. We want to keep our glutathione levels elevated as a defense to protect our DNA from damage. And even glutathione can help to repair DNA. Here's another study that's pretty interesting. Glutathione directly intercepts DNA radicals. So again, we can go down to the conclusion in the study, and this conclusion actually, the point that they're making, glutathione is perhaps best known as an electron source. Glutathione is 3 amino acids that are held together by electrons, and it can donate those electrons to recycle antioxidants and other things. But we can see here, however, these results show that an important task for glutathione may be to directly intercept DNA radicals before they can permanently damage DNA. So again, another study looking at how DNA can be protected by glutathione. And then one final look here. Oh, no, I'm not going to get to that quite yet. We'll come back to that. Don't want to skip ahead of myself. So Emily, this is all to say that if we can look at glutathione as being ubiquitous, it protects our hearing, it's an important part of the immune system. Certainly, it's an important part of detoxification. That's why many of our members will use the glutathione patch. However, when we are looking at achieving something such as age reversal, or simply trying to live as long as we can and be as healthy as we can, what we want to do is keep our glutathione levels elevated, and this is going to protect our DNA from damage. We're waiting for Emily to come back. Another important thing about glutathione is that it can actually repair damage to DNA before the DNA has a chance to replicate. So it's not going to take mutations over into another generation of new cells. So anyway, that's all to say that while we can look at one level of benefits for glutathione that we commonly talk about, there's some other benefits of glutathione that are really amazing, and they all have to do with protecting our DNA from damage.
Wow, that's pretty incredible. You know, I think sometimes we don't always think about how important it is to protect our DNA as part of this overall strategy to really support our age reversal and health and just immune system support, right?
Absolutely. You know, it's inflammation and oxidative stress in the body, as it turns out, is necessary. So these chemicals, they're produced naturally, and they're designed to suppress the activity of bacteria, viruses, cancer cells. So they have a very valuable function. Inflammation will tear down old cells and make way for new cells. So as long as everything is in balance, and it pretty much is when most people are young and healthy, everything works fine. But through the aging process, through reduction in energy production in the cell, mitochondrial function, once the energy system becomes imbalanced, not producing as much, then intracellular levels of glutathione will decrease, and oxidative and inflammatory stress increases and makes us more susceptible to DNA damage. So, you know, long story short, we keep our glutathione levels elevated, have a healthy diet, exercise, keep everything in balance, and we're in good shape.
I love hearing that. I know that Aeon is another one of the patches that is part of this system that our members absolutely love. I love it too. And I think it kind of plays into exactly what you're talking about here when it comes to that inflammation. And we know that can really help support that balance that you're talking about and ensuring we don't have excess and long-term sustained inflammation. Do you want to share a little bit more about that particularly and how that connects with X39 as well to really support our overall goal?
Yeah, so there's a number of dots that we can connect on this. So I want to take a step back for a second and look at why the Aeon patch was originally developed. It developed as a longevity product, and it was really our first step towards this idea that we could significantly extend human lifespan. So some of the things I'll be talking about next week at convention is when we see ages in the Bible of hundreds of years old, are these stories or is it factual? Because if it's factual, the implications are incredible. You know, Methuselah lived to be over 900 years old. You know, Noah had kids when he was over 500 years old. God help his wife. And I think they had something like over 50. No, that was Adam. I think Adam had over like 50 kids or something like that. It was a huge number anyway. But you know, so myself as a Christian, of course, I believe that the Bible is the word of God and every word is true. So that means this is factual. But can we have scientific evidence, right? We don't want to do this based on faith. We need a scientific path to uncover some of this. And what's so interesting today is scientists such as Aubrey de Grey, who's one of the cutting edge scientists in age reversal, says, oh, in the future, people are going to be living to be 5,000 years old, right? That's extreme even for me. Ray Kurzweil at Google, he says, oh, in our lifetime, people will reach lifespans of 1,000 years, right? So this is mainstream now. It's no longer science fiction or just simple Bible stories. But so the question is, how do we get there? What's the path? So I had met a scientist at a party. I have a boring social life. I hang out with scientists and inventors. And so this scientist was injecting bees, worker bees, with a specific peptide that's naturally found in the human body, which declines with age. And with one injection, he was able to extend their lifetime from 5 to 6 times above normal. So imagine getting, a shot, and now you can live to be 500 years, right?
Wow.
Right, that's pretty cool. So when we're about 30, the levels of this peptide start to fall off. It's a peptide that's found in the liver. And he tried to duplicate these experiments with humans, but found out that the half-life was so short that you'd have to give people 300 grams a day, and it would be over 20 hours. So we'd all be walking around with IV bags, and it costs about $50,000 a month. So it's not practical. So I invented the Aeon patch to elevate this peptide, right? And now you can do it for under $100, not 50,000. So how does this work? Well, what we found out about this peptide is that it does many things. One of the things, it will induce an increase in the antioxidant SOD. So SOD is a very powerful antioxidant, and it will manage inflammation in the body. So we did blood tests, and we found that Aeon was reducing inflammatory cytokines, C-reactive protein, homocysteine, lipid peroxides, all these inflammatory markers that normally damage healthy tissue if left in a chronic state. So the reason why, so taking that into consideration, the reason why that's important from the perspective of longevity is that if people develop chronic inflammation, first that will lead into disease like arthritis, right? But the other thing is that it can cause breaks in the strands of the DNA, and this will lead to not only a degradation of our health, but a shortening of our lifespan. So what we see in various species that live to be hundreds of years old is that they have perfect control over the inflammatory process. Everything works in balance, and it's never out of balance. With human beings, we're not quite as good. But Aeon is a very important step in the right direction to managing inflammation so we can improve quality of life and longevity.
Wow. A question that comes to mind as you're talking about that is, why are we not good at that? What about humans makes us inefficient? Is it because we choose a lot of things differently than other animals? Or what would you say is your thought on that?
We're sinners. And so, if I would look at it from a biblical perspective, and because it provides a historical context of this, and then we can look at the geology involved in the earth and how that's changed over time. But if we look at it from the biblical perspective, when we were created, we were immortal, right? Our bodies would never age, never get sick, and we'd essentially live forever. Of course, we know that there was sin that was injected, and now the lifespan was about 1,000. And then after the flood, then people went to be about 120 years old. So what's interesting about that is, first, I think that there's compelling evidence to show that the flood of Noah was in fact a real event. I'm on that side of the argument because of the evidence that I've seen. So not to get derailed in that direction, but what's interesting is that now we know today through geological studies that the magnetic field of the earth was much stronger than it was today back in ancient times. And in our research, our members have seen some of the equipment that we've invented and patented. What we look to do is enhance the human electromagnetic field by inducing an electromagnetic field externally. And what we've seen is that this speeds up the regenerative process, but it also enhances mitochondrial function. So essentially, what I suspect happened over time is that thousands of years ago, many thousands of years ago, the Earth's magnetic field was stronger. The Earth was able to pass electrons over to human beings through a phenomena called induction. Just like you have in every electromagnetic transformer, human beings absorbed these electrons and it maintained mitochondrial function. Hence, people did not age. Now, people did die, of course, from sickness and from war and those kind of things. But if people were lucky enough, they could live to be that age. So as the Earth's magnetic field, among other things, weakened, lifespans shortened. So
that actually
that's my hypothesis.
Well, I always like to hear those because we know sometimes what those hypotheses turn into.
Yeah, I mean, that's where we start in our studies, right? Yeah, when we develop products, when we have studies, it'll start as a hypothesis, we'll gather data, and then of course we can say, okay, we found the hypothesis to be true. So this is important from the perspective of age reversal. And what scientists like David Sinclair are finding at Harvard is that, in fact, when you increase mitochondrial function, it resets the genes to a younger state. And he believes this is going to put us on a path towards age reversal and living to be hundreds of years old. So I'm really saying the same thing, but I'm saying in ancient times, we got those extra electrons for our mitochondria from the Earth's magnetic field. That doesn't exist today, so now we have to look at technology that can enhance mitochondrial function, and that in our research, that's what we look at.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I hear this question a lot, and actually I'm seeing it in the Q&A right now. I think I know the answer, but when you're talking about Aeon specifically and elevating a specific peptide, I know that you have not shared what that peptide is openly. Is that confidential, and is that something that we can share, or is that proprietary?
So here's the issue. You know, I've thought about this for years, and sometimes when I've gotten together with leaders over private dinner and they ask me that question, sometimes I'll answer it depending on what mood I'm in. But you know, here's the issue: is that this peptide, if you were to do a search on it in Google, the first couple of things that would come up is its use therapeutically in treating a number of different health disorders. And we just made a decision years ago that we did not want to share that information because we didn't want people making claims that the patch could treat this disease. And so we just elected to support Aeon with the clinical studies that we have showing that it's very effective at reducing stress. And that's really all we say. So that said, Aeon produces benefits that are incredibly beneficial in many areas of health, but we just don't claim it.
No, that makes sense. And I appreciate you bringing that up. I know that a lot of times we get so excited by the results that many of us experience through this particular patch with Aeon, X39, some of the other patches as well. And I think we get so excited that we start to talk about what we are personally experiencing from a health perspective. So I think that what you just shared might even help others who are listening to understand how important it is, even from this side, that we don't make any medical claims. We don't say that our products treat any specific conditions. It simply supports our body's natural ability to take care of itself and then maybe amplify its ability to reverse aging, right?
Yeah, you know, so if we look at what foundationally, what does Aeon do? It's stress reduction. So we're elevating antioxidants such as SOD. This reduces oxidative and inflammatory stress. We see within seconds, the autonomic nervous system goes into a state of balance, and that's really ideal. Interestingly, with the immune system, we can be in fight or flight. We can be in a state of deep relaxation, but we really want a balance between the two, because that's where the immune system is going to work best. So if we're currently, for the type A personalities out there, people that are workaholics like you and I, that's not so good for health, because we're always driving, and we need to have some relaxation. Now, bad news for those people that are, being paid by the government to stay home and relax. You're not doing yourselves much help, because too much relaxation actually weakens immune function. I heard once that Mariah Carey, amazing artist, but yet I heard she was sleeping like 14 hours a day. Well, poor Mariah, because she is unwittingly damaging her immune system by getting too much sleep. So this is really about balance. And if we get into that state of balance in the autonomic nervous system, we are managing our inflammation and reducing our risks of it damaging our cells and setting ourselves up for a longer and healthier life.
I think that's really great perspective. I always love how you do talk about the importance of balance in all aspects of our lives, and that these products really help to support our body to maintain that balance with the healthy lifestyle, the eating, the water, sleep, quality water, right? I love that you bring that up. It's really important, I think.
Yeah. Before someone uses the patches, they should make an assessment of, where is my foundation? How am I doing with my diet, right? We're not going to be perfect, and that's totally okay. But how are you doing 80% of the time, right? Getting all of your proper nutrition. And then the same thing with exercise. Even exercise a couple days a week is going to be better than nothing. Drinking adequate amounts of water through the day, like I said, getting at least 7 hours of sleep, preferably a little bit more. So when that foundation is in place, then we can say, okay, let's be adding some supplements in, let's add the patches in, and this is going to give me benefits I couldn't get just through diet and exercise. So I think that's the proper way to look at it.
Oh, I really like that. Well, kind of going back to the whole YH trio, I know we've talked about two of the main products in that trio. I know there's a third that does also work in tandem with these products. Do you want to talk a little bit about Carnosine and some of the benefits of that product?
Sure. So again, I think let's talk about Carnosine through the lens of X39 and living as long as possible. So Carnosine gets very interesting. Actually, we promote it as a way to support and enhance cognitive function, to support athletic performance, and we have some great studies that show those benefits. However, actually, the first time I ever heard of Carnosine, it was because I saw experiments that were done with bacteria and with mice. In the bacteria, it was showing the lifespan was being increased by 300 to 400%.
Wow.
With the mice, it was even more interesting. The mice, they were getting an increase in lifespan by 30 to 40%. That's important now, right? Because they're a mammal and it has implications for human beings. And many people might not know this, but the neurochemistry of mice directly mimics that of human beings. So in other words, we look at cognitive function relative to Carnosine, and if we see experiments in mice that it's enhancing their cognitive function, likelihood is that that's going to work in human beings as well. Animal studies don't always carry over. But in this particular case with Carnosine, what was being found back 20 years ago is that not only could it extend lifespan, but the mice didn't age. And they didn't age until the very end of their lives. So they could outlive the controls and they would stay younger longer. Now, back then it wasn't exactly known what was going on, but eventually it's figured out. I'll share my screen here again. And the reason it was because carnosine was protecting the telomeres from damage. So the telomeres are these short rods on the end of the genes that control how many times the cells can divide. So there is a very well-known researcher, Hayflick, and he came out and discovered something called the Hayflick limit. And this is the number of times the cells can divide because before they can't divide any longer. And so this becomes rather self-evident. If our cells as humans, if they do not continue to divide, eventually we're going to die. So when we run out of new cells to make, that spells trouble. And that happens at about age 75 for most people. So, and this also explains why as people age, getting injured becomes extremely dangerous because the stem cell activity is down, they can't make new cells, and that means they're not going to be able to make new healthy tissue and repair. So when we're looking at age reversal, one of the things we want to look at is, can we keep the cells dividing? That's going to be one of the keys to extending human lifespan. And here we have a very important clue, and it's in the telomeres. And you have research today where there are scientists, all they study is telomere biology, because when we look at a species such as a tardigrade, as a lobster, we're going to find that their telomeres don't shorten. Cancer cells, which are immortal, never experience shortening of telomeres. They produce an infinite amount of the enzyme telomerase, which lengthens telomeres. But in any case, here we have something really practical we can do today. We can elevate our carnosine, protect the telomeres, extend our health span, and extend our lifespan. Nobody knows in humans, is this going to be the same as mice where we get a 30 to 40% increase? But hey, I'm willing to take that chance. 30 to 40%, that's not bad as a start.
Absolutely. So when we wear the carnosine patch, do we have any sort of information that allows us to understand by how much our carnosine is elevated in the body at this point?
Yeah, based on what we've seen in other studies, we probably think it's around 30 to 40% based on the evidence. Some of the patches that, of course, they work very differently, where glutathione is up closer to 300%. But I think that there's something else going on there, meaning I think what we're seeing today, I use a case in point with men's testosterone levels. We're seeing a horrible problem today that testosterone levels have fallen dramatically. And I've seen all different figures, but testosterone levels are maybe down 25 to 40% lower than what they were just back in the 1950s, 1960s. So this is a real issue, and it's as a result of being exposed to environmental toxins such as xenoestrogens. So I think we're seeing the same phenomena with glutathione. We're constantly bombarded by these environmental toxins. So when we do studies and we see a baseline glutathione level, that glutathione level is not really representative of what the glutathione levels would have been decades ago. So I don't think that the glutathione patch is so much boosting levels 300%, which it is. I think what it's doing is restoring us back to the levels of where we were supposed to be naturally before we add all of these synthetic chemicals in the environment. So that's important to know. So when we see a contrast between something like glutathione and carnosine, carnosine's at 30 to 40%, glutathione's at 300%, it's because glutathione is the one that's going to be cleaning up the environmental toxins. Now, carnosine can detox heavy metals like aluminum out of the body, but it produces a very mild detox compared to glutathione. So yeah, as we age, our carnosine levels are going to decrease. Of course, we're going to experience as a result a decline in cognitive function, in our muscle mass. That's age-related sarcopenia. So we elevate carnosine, and now that 30 to 40% is enough to restore our cognitive function and restore some of the lost muscle mass.
Wow. You know, I'm really impressed by these 3 patches that are part of this system. They all have such beautiful benefits. And like you're saying, when we look at them through the lens of X39 and how it really can complement the effects of what X39 is doing, it's really incredible to me. But I have one question really about the whole system, right? Like, this is probably one of the first questions I had when I joined LifeWave is, do they work better together? I mean, do I need to wear them all together? Why are they in a system? I guess is kind of some of those main questions that I had when I first started.
Yeah, this really has a lot to do with how we developed the products in the beginning anyway. So we went through the first few products that we released, which were always intended to be general lifestyle products, improving energy, relieving pain, and improving the quality of sleep. And in my research, I began to think, well, what else can we do with this technology? And I thought, if we could start to synthesize peptides with light, that would be incredible, because it would open up a whole new avenue of research. And the first one that I started with was glutathione. And when that showed to be successful, then I started looking at other peptides, and carnosine was the second one. But the goal then, once glutathione was a reality, then the concept of the company began to change to say, okay, well, since glutathione is so closely correlated to aging, and we can elevate it now in a way that is much more advantageous than through traditional oral supplementation, what else can we do to enhance and improve upon the way that we age? So carnosine was the next step, and then Aeon was the next step. So the two of them fit together as a anti-aging system because they all have anti-aging effects, but each of those effects is different from the other, so they work synergistically. So the overall effect of the 3 is better than any 1 or 2 on its own.
Oh, I like that. And it really is helpful to understand the difference with these particular products, aside from the lifestyle products that were originally part of the product offering since the beginning. That's really helpful to understand, just like the segments and how you've progressed as you've learned more about the biology of the body and really had this targeted approach to elevate these peptides for specific purposes. It makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and that's obviously, that research played a massive role in going to the next step was, okay, now how do we activate the stem cells and get them to act younger? And initially, this was a 10-year journey. And initially, I thought the answer was going to be a mechanical piece of equipment. And, we have over 70 patents now on a whole variety of different technologies for stem cell activation, and we've proven that works. But all of those methods are very expensive, and so fortunately, we ended up with X39, which is very affordable for everyone.
Oh, I love that. I know so many are so grateful and excited about X39, but also to have these patches that really complement and really help with the overall experience that we have within our bodies to support our aging. And I guess age reversal is probably better, not anti-aging, right?
Well, I think maybe they're 2 different things.
Yes.
They're 2 different things because for years, people have used glutathione, carnosine, and Aeon. They've gotten great effects with it. But when people started using X39, it was taking that practical experience to an entirely other level, right? So we've seen testimonials today where you would say those people are definitely reversing in age, right? It's we have, of course, in some cases, testimonials where people look 10, 15, 20 years younger in a matter of months of using X39. And we never saw those levels of effects with glutathione, carnosine, and Aeon. So while the YH system will support the overall health of the body and it absolutely contributes to longevity, the strength of X39 is in resetting genes to a younger state and getting those cells to act like younger cells. And now when we can protect the stem cells with glutathione, reducing inflammatory stress, now, of course, we can get better benefits even more.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense, actually. I do have a few questions that have been popping up in the chat that I know people generally have when we're talking about any patches, and I think it's always helpful to go over this.
Sure.
People are often wondering about placement of patches or how long to wear them. And with these 3 particular patches, do you have any recommendations that you would like to share specifically about that?
Yeah, so if we're only talking about these 3 patches, I would recommend using carnosine and glutathione during the day. I generally would not recommend glutathione at night because it does detox the body, and if people wear it at night, they may experience when they wake up in the morning a headache, fatigue, or nausea. And so it's better to use glutathione during the day. If someone is using glutathione at night to assist with pain, then on those occasions, it's okay, but it would be preferential to use glutathione during the day. With carnosine, it's also preferable to use it during the day. Carnosine, with some people, it will make them mentally active. And so, for example, there are people that use carnosine at night and their brain is turned on the entire night, yet their bodies are asleep. And they still wake up feeling refreshed, but it's an unusual experience. So I would recommend carnosine during the day, but if someone wanted to try carnosine at night, they could. Now, Aeon is one of our patches. Really, you can use it either during the day or the evening. But if you're going to use carnosine and glutathione during the day, then Aeon at night is preferred because it is going to de-stress the body, relax the nervous system, make the body really calm. Many times I'm lying in bed with the carnosine patch and I'm reading, and I wake up an hour later and my face is in the book. But the Aeon patch is a really great patch to use. It'll assist in the quality of sleep. Plus, of course, it's reducing inflammation and managing inflammation and providing those anti-aging effects.
I think that's really helpful. I've heard you speak about this as well, but just again, for new people, what is the maximum amount of time that we would recommend you wear patches? And for those 3 patches, where's the best place to put them on the body?
Yeah, so our general recommendations are 12 hours on, 12 hours off. So there is this phenomenon in phototherapy, and it's where if you keep stimulating the body with light, eventually the body stops responding. It's kind of like if people drink coffee all the time, they keep having to take more and more caffeine to get the same effect, right? It's the same exact mechanism. So this is why we need an on and an off cycle. So we found through our studies that 12 hours on, 12 hours off works. Now, if someone leaves on a little bit longer, they don't need to freak out. Just remove the patch. Because the patch traps body heat, there is a risk of a heat rash or irritation of the skin, but that's only mild. Usually it won't affect most people. Now, on patch placements, of course, we have them in the instructions. And when we do the blood tests or our other tests, we find that we get these systemic effects. So it means that the patch placement is not as important as you would think. There are practitioners, such as acupuncturists and naturopaths, that like to put the patches on acupuncture points. And it works very well for that. It's not necessary. It just has to be in contact with the skin. But if people want to put them on acupuncture points, they can. So as an example, the Carnosine on the back of the neck, the glutathione patch below the belly button is going to be really good. If someone wanted to get some extra stimulation of the immune system, there is a acupuncture point right over here. It's called large intestine 4. And that point is very well known to enhance immune activity, which I know many people are concerned about today. So you could put Carnosine behind the neck and then the glutathione patch up in the web of the hand there.
And that's your right hand, correct?
On the right side of the body, that's correct.
Wonderful. Yeah. You know, I've had people ask me this question when I've been at events, and I would love for you to share the answer to this particular one. So some people are concerned because we recommend the 12 hours on, 12 hours off, that if they're using patches during the day and using patches during the night, they're wearing patches for 24 hours. Is it specific to the particular patch that we recommend no longer than 12 hours, or total patch wearage?
So each patch will reflect different wavelengths of light. So to be more specific, if someone was using the energy patches during the day, or the glutathione patch, since we're talking about that during the day, they could use the Aeon patches at night, because Aeon is stimulating the skin with different wavelengths of light than would be glutathione. So that would be the difference.
No, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah. I think everyone just wants to make sure that they use them to the best of their ability. And so I think that's why we get some of those questions. I've even had some people say, oh, well, I've heard that you can cut the patches in half and use them. We don't recommend that, do we?
Definitely do not recommend. Please don't do that. That's not a good idea. It's a terrible idea. So I don't know where it came from, but yeah, no, the patches are sealed because they need to be activated by body heat. So they'll actually warm up. And we've done studies looking at the temperature under the patch compared to the ambient skin. And so you definitely don't want to cut them in half. You want to keep them sealed so they can be activated properly.
No, I appreciate you clarifying that. I've had others also say, oh, I just take off half of the backing, and so then it works longer. I think that's probably around the same lines, right? That doesn't impact the effectiveness if you use only half the backing, correct?
Well, it's a little bit different in this case. So yes, if you are not cutting the patch, but you're only using half the adhesive, you're still using the entire patch. You know, removing half the adhesive, if you want to move the patch to different locations. So let's say when someone is in pain, they'll often say, well, the pain will move after I apply the patch. And that's a good thing. Anyway, we won't get into the details on that. So that's a good thing. So, you know, we have taught people to follow the pain. So you could start with half the adhesive, put it on the point of pain. When the pain moves, then you can go ahead and move it to the other point and see the pain come down even further. So yeah, sometimes using half the adhesive is fine. But in any case, that's far, far better than cutting the patch in half.
But it won't extend the usefulness of the patch. No. Use half, right?
No, it's not. No, it's not. It won't extend the useful life of the patch. What it will do is give you the ability to move the patch around the body a little bit better.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, we're almost out of time, David. I have one question here, or a comment. As we finish up the presentation today, well, actually, two questions. So first question would be, is it okay to stack patches, so one on top of the other, to wear? Are they still effective, or does that impact how the frequency is impacting the production of peptides in the body?
Yeah, so I have several ways of answering this question. First, LifeWave has not performed any clinical studies on stacking of the patches. So we don't have any clinical evidence to say that they work in this fashion. Now, that said, I have known many practitioners over the years, such as Dr. Dennis Lobstein, who's an expert on patching, and he's had great success with stacking patches. In fact, I think, to give credit where credit is due, I believe Dr. Lobstein was the one that initiated the stacking of the patches. So yeah, it's entirely possible that this is going to work just fine. We don't promote it only because we haven't performed any studies, so we don't have any data that we can point to.
No, that makes total sense. Okay, final question, I guess, or just a recap. Can you, just as we finish, give a very brief explanation on each of the 3 patches in the YH system of what is the main benefit and what is it supporting in the body, just so people can have that quick recap? Sure.
So from the point of view of longevity, glutathione is the body's master antioxidant. It's found everywhere in the body. And in addition to protecting our cells from damage and from detoxifying the body, from the point of view of longevity, it can help to protect our DNA from oxidative and inflammatory stress. And what we see is that in people that have very, very long lifespans, they have elevated levels of glutathione. When we look at carnosine, when we look at it from the perspective of longevity, we see that it can protect the telomeres from degradation. And animal experiments have shown that it can lengthen the lifespan of mammals like mice 30 to 40%, and also increase their health span so they stay younger longer. So that's an enormous benefit of carnosine. And then finally with Aeon, it is a broad spectrum anti-inflammatory. It helps to manage stress in the body and manage inflammation. And from the point of view of longevity, again, if we control inflammation, then we can protect the cells, protect the DNA from damage, and have a longer, healthier life. So looking at those 3 products, just from the point of view of anti-aging and longevity, those would be some of the many benefits. Wonderful.
Well, I appreciate your time today, David. Before we sign off, is there anything that you wanted to share as a last thought about how the YH system really is an important piece to use with our X39?
Yeah, X39, of course, is our lead product. It's been amazing, and I'm looking forward to seeing everyone at convention, whether or not they be there. Hopefully they get there live. Orlando's amazing this time of year. Otherwise, we'll see them virtually. And we're going to get into a lot more detail on X39, the new patch, anti-aging, age reversal. So it's going to be amazing. But from the perspective of stem cells, what we see is that stem cells are like any other cell in the body. They can be exposed and degraded by oxidative and inflammatory stress. So by keeping our carnosine glutathione levels elevated, by using products like Aeon to manage inflammatory stress, we protect the stem cells and they can do better at their job. And especially with Aeon, that would be like the #1 pairing with X39, because when people are trying to repair injuries and they have chronic inflammation, the stem cells can't do their job properly. So managing the stress and inflammation with Aeon gives the stem cells the opportunity to heal the injury.
Perfect. Honestly, David, this has been amazing today. You've shared so much great information. I know that I've definitely learned a lot today. Just even products that I know many of us know a lot about, but I think in the lens of how this works with X39, like you were saying, this is really, really important information. So thank you for your time and sharing this with us today.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Emily.
Absolutely. Well, everyone, I hope you've enjoyed this presentation as much as I have. It's always a treat when we get to hear from David. I mean, not very many companies do you get to actually hear from the inventor of the product, from the CEO, from the founder. But David truly has a love for education and for helping, as we all know. You can see that from the passion and the way that he discusses and talks about these amazing products. We hope that you join us on our next LifeWave Connect, where we'll be focused on business training. If you're looking for the replay of this webinar, it's streamed live to our Business Builder Facebook group. It will be played again in the evening. So we play it at 11 and we play this at 6 p.m. Eastern. So you can watch the secondary playing of this webinar. And we will also have this listed on our YouTube channel, LifeWave Health, in the LifeWave Connect playlist in all languages within the next week. So again, we appreciate you joining us. We appreciate you being a part of our LifeWave family, and we absolutely appreciate you connecting with us. We'll see you all again soon, and we hope to have you all be a part of our convention, whether it's virtually or in person in Orlando. It's definitely going to be something you won't want to miss. So we'll talk to y'all soon, and thank you again for being here. We will be with you next week in convention time and beyond. Thanks again. Bye-bye.